Okay, let's get started. He'll come in when he comes in. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you being here. We all know who we are. So I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Reo Committee, and I'll entertain a motion from Lindsay or Tim for acceptance of the minutes as previously written, and we give thanks for Maureen for doing that.
I'll make a motion to accept as written.
Tim? You're muted.
Second.
Hello.
Thank you. And Fiora, you're in?
Yeah, I'm going to mute myself. So if you guys need me, take me a minute to unmute.
Okay, well, do you have any amendments for the minutes? We've accepted the minutes.
Nope, no additions, corrections, or deletions, except the minutes as presented.
Okay, all in favor of acceptance of minutes, please say aye.
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 I have discussion on the items, discussion of REO policies. Discussion of whether corrective action should be taken, contractors not meeting their goals. Fiore, that's you. You're listed as the person on that one.
So one of the things that, you know, we got to look at is, you know, again, we see when contractors do participate, our numbers go up. We know that for a fact. I know we're making every effort to get every contractor to do something about it. But when you look at even today's numbers, we have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11 people. Like over half the list of women have zeros. Over half the people on veterans have zeros, and about a quarter of the residents are zeros. So, again, it's just we need to definitely figure out how to get more participation from, the rest of these contractors that are working on a project. I get it. It is overall hours for the whole entire job site. But again, we have had job sites that, again, all 4 criteria are supposed to be met. So, are we going to keep track of the contractors that, let me not even go that way, because again, as long as we're putting in effort and making a true effort, I think that is what we really, do we have a discussion about, at some point, it doesn't have to be today, how do we do to help our contractors or make sure they're making an effort? I think one of the things we asked to see or start maybe seeing is what really is their effort that they made going forward. I mean, that's the way I feel. We should have an idea of, I know they send in, here's what we're planning on doing. We've never seen any, so we don't know what efforts are being made on behalf of these contractors. So, I mean, I think that should be a discussion sometime at some point too, So, I mean, I know I'm over the map, but we're just seeing way too many zeros. And again, we don't have a lot of examples going forward of these total jobs closed out. We've only got, 1 on the books, and that was 3 out of 4. So don't get me wrong, 3 out of 4 isn't bad, but it should be 4 out of 4. And then we have Forest Park that we don't even know what the statistics are up there yet, because we haven't had a chance to see any paperwork yet.
Any comments, questions from any members of the committee?
So what is the action in order to get somewhere on this item? Do we need numbers, or I'm not understanding exactly what Fiore wants. I know that he's brought it up and it's an important issue. I'm not sure what our next item is.
Well, I think at some point, Tim, we should, again, you got to remember, it's hard to go after any particular one individual contractor at the end of the day, because the onus isn't on him. It's on we've now shifted away from the individual contractors and put the onus on a general contractor to meet the numbers. But there is 2 parts of that conversation. he has direct access and control over the ones that he hires. And then, of course, the city owns all the file sub-bids. So again, we now have at least a document that says, okay, Mr. City-controlled file sub-bid bidders, again, that would be making this, as we discussed at the last two meetings, I sent the case law out. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so we still need to talk to the lawyers to find out their interpretation and again, but at least we now know if we start tracking the city, if the lawyers agree that this can be done, if we make a sub investigation, I forgot the word I used last time, a board that not investigates, but sees if the contractor isn't, we can label it anything we want. There's a term I'm looking for, and I'm just not grasping it right now. My head's all over the place today. But my point is, I think with this law, we should be able to start keeping track of contractors if we implement it, and then saying, okay, because you haven't performed or underperformed on file sub-bid work before, we're not even going to bother accepting your bid, for this next project. So, that's for the city-owned ones. But again, the general contractor is liable for the rest of them there. And again, we just, again, it's on him to make sure that those contractors are meeting their requirements.
So I follow you that there's legal issues. So I would suggest, I don't know, Melvin, I know we used to have a lawyer come to this all the time. It seems like we need a lawyer assigned to the REO for a future meeting. But it just think to comment on taking that next action and whether we have the right to take it or not. We do have a right to communicate with them on what our numbers say they're doing, right? Is there any question about that?
No.
So,
no. Well, I mean, we can send letters out as a board and saying, we're looking at your numbers, whether it's a particular job or, if we start keeping track of their past history too, and saying, look, you've been underperforming or whatever it is. But I mean, I think it really at this point, maybe we should start seeing what their effort is. Do we have a defined effort? We had one in the original REO. I don't know if it's still in the new one. I mean, I haven't read it since we made the thing 5 years ago, but
we have a maximum efforts form that the contractors fill out to say what they're doing, what postings they're putting up online, what ads they're putting in the papers, the resources that we provide for them, that they're reaching out to see if they can find the workers in those industries. I can forward those maximum efforts forms to the committee as they come in. That's not a problem.
Well, yeah, that would be, that would at least be a start to help. So we get an idea that at least they're, because again, just to say, one of the things that, again, I only here's a particular case because it affected my industry. When the guy put the ad in the paper, I looked at it and I have access to about 75 workers at the time. And I'm like, I don't even think I don't have a guy in my union that could meet all of his qualifications. And oh, by the way, you were being hired for, 6-week job and then they were going to get rid of you. So I'm just, again, it's just, there's a real effort and then there's a fictitious effort. But again, I'm not saying anybody would do that. This particular, like I said, the guy just went to every extreme he can put in there. But again, it's just like, is this really an effort at that point? But again, it'd be nice to see that stuff as we move forward to get an idea of what's being done. And then if we can tweak, if we can tweak something, I think we should probably tweak it as we start seeing stuff. But without seeing it, we don't know what they're doing,
Fiore, is that 6-week job time frame solvable though outside of a union contract? I mean, if it's a 6 weeks job, and you can't advertise it for anything other than it being a 6-week job because that's what it is. If you're a union contractor, then you're pulling people off your bench. So the thing is whether it's at the end of the 6 weeks, you're hopefully moving them on to the next position. So is that fair or applicable to outsider bids or non-contract bids? We got a couple of union people. I mean, is that really?
The whole premise of the open shop is to, if you're going to continue to bid on these projects, so again, you can look at some of the zeros that are on a project right now, and this isn't their first job. So, you know, if you've been bidding for the city for the last 4 years, and you still have zeros, then what does it take? So you remember we always saying you can put as many ads as you want in the paper. The problem is when you start using the word experienced, licensed electrician, plumber, any licensed trade. Where's the apprentice program? Train somebody to start getting into that profession. You've got work all over, so it's not like they can't keep the person busy. So, you know, that's the effort that really needs to be done.
Okay, I get it. But my next question then that falls into that is that now the only contract that I've seen here consistently and repeatedly is Fontaine. And they're not at issue in terms of their efforts. As far as I know, they've actually hired somebody. She's on this committee, on this meeting that does it. So is it the same contractors that are coming back, Che, that are repeatedly fitting into the description that that Fiore is suggesting? Or, I mean, if it's whack-a-mole, where it's one contract, Fontaine is here, but they were here back a while ago. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Are we seeing the same contractors, or are these a new bidder each? There's
a couple repeat offenders, and we've been working on them. But the whack-a-mole can be apt as well. You have some that come on that don't do as well and are trying, and you have some that are repeat offenders, and we're trying to do the best we can with the repeat offenders, and Fiore's all well knows some of them himself as well. So yes, there's both. There are both categories, correct?
So Fiore,
Melvin, real quick. So what I'm looking at is the DeBerry School. We have 50% of the contractors have zero for women. So that's half the contractors there. Whoever's controlled are under. That's 50%. And then when you look at the veteran, again, veteran's a weirder number. That's something we just added, but about 55 to 58% was zeros. And then with the women, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it's about 45% still have zeros. 40%, 42% still have zeros. So again, how do we get these contractors to stop showing zeros is really what this whole conversation should be around. How do we stop seeing zeros in these categories? That's kind of like what we, that's the hard part. Yeah, there is no magical wand to get them, but we have to start figuring out or getting them to realize zeros aren't acceptable anymore. This has been on the books way too long. If you're going to bid in the city, we need an outreach.
Now, Lisa, I don't mean to sound sexist in directing this conversation or this question to you, but what does the pool of available women look like, and does it exist? And I mean, I know that you do a lot of work. You're probably one of the most active people in Western Mass in trying to recruit women and being involved with women in construction. And I see and get that you're doing a lot of work with UMass and other projects. Is there a large enough pool to draw from?
We definitely have a pool of some women who are interested in carpentry. Now that's just for carpentry, though. It's not for women who are interested in being iron workers or electricians or plumbers. So we have that, and we have some women on what we call our eligible pool list that they are ready to go if they get a job opportunity. But it's not as deep as we'd like to have it be. And I would love to be a part of, efforts to do some more outreach events that, are bringing more Springfield residents to awareness about these jobs. We always do a lot with Putnam. We bring young people from Putnam each year, but there's, as everyone knows, Putnam has a waiting list to get into, and there are young people from other schools or who have graduated already and worked. We find the best people are people who work some shit jobs for a couple of years, minimum wage, and understand then what an opportunity of a career-based job is. And so would love to work with any of the counselors or staff on doing some more outreach events to bring more residents from Springfield into apprenticeship programs.
Now, Fiore, so that I'm not sexist, because I'm going to ask the same question as you as a representative of the ironworkers. How many women do you got applying for jobs?
So I just had a woman that ended up having a conversation with, got out of a welding school. She ended up being a operating engineer. I had a couple other that expressed an interest. Again, it's, you know, when you try to put the whole thing together, you know, my schooling takes place in Boston, but we've made it about as easy as you can get. We even pay for the hotel room out there. But at the end of the day, you know, it's all about the transportation, the ability to have, there's just so many variables. I think I've got like 7 women that are out here in Western Mass as ironworkers at this time. I had one that dropped out a year ago and decided to go back to school. She was with me for 6 years and just decided to change profession. So, you know, it is what it is at this point. I didn't get any applicants for women this year for the apprentice program, but if one came to me tomorrow, I would take her in a heartbeat.
Well, Lisa,
they've given me permission to go outside the realm to take women or minorities or even residents for that matter. Any criteria I can take in out here outside of my normal application process.
I'm going to, I mean, I can't speak for other people, but I'm going to have a conversation with a couple of my colleagues and see if maybe Lisa and we can do something locally in Springfield, host some type of event, encourage and welcome in some women, directed specifically to women in the construction trades. And maybe we can do some recruitment. But it's
if I could add in, Counselor, I'm sorry to interrupt. I would say it would be great to have it be focused on Springfield residents into the construction trades and women and men. And I know that Council President Letterman has also expressed interest in having a similar conversation and connecting with the Springfield schools on it.
Well, I'll certainly.
Hey, Melvin, real quick comment.
Please.
So just to, if my memory serves me correctly, when we did the North End School, even in the midst of COVID, which really was the hardest classification, because don't forget, there wasn't school being taken care of. So you had women that had to take care of extra childcare because the kids were home. But yet we met the numbers down there. I think we far exceeded the numbers down at the project down there. So they're definitely, we can meet these numbers, but again, it's you know, there's just so many variables that play into everything. I get it. So, but as long as we're trying, as long as contractors are trying, at the end of the day, as long as someone's trying, we can't knock somebody. You know, the variables are going to be what they are, and we can't control that. No one can. But we definitely need to make sure that people are trying. That's all.
Okay, well, that means
zeros to me mean, are they trying or not? They're still zeros, you know.
Well, that kind of falls into, I don't see it listed on, you know, in its entirety, but I had to share, and for all transparency purposes with the committee, I had a conversation with the gentleman who is doing the work at Forest Park. You know, his name's been bandied about, or his company's been bandied about. I'm very appreciative for Che for what he sent to me and what I've been able to kind of read and have shared with me. But the thing is that's why I bring it back. You know, I can remember many years ago, going back probably a decade ago, where long before I even knew many of you people on this committee, including, you know, except for Tim, and I don't even know if Lisa was around at that time. Certainly Che was down at the South End Community Center doing good work with our youth, and Lindsay was probably still in high school. But the point is that I can remember us trying to create a listing of programs. I remember the woman who was doing the old window workshop to teach women how to do historic window construction. I remember being a featured speaker at STIC, at the graduating class of a program that was geared towards us. So the ideal of construction trades, training people on prepping them to be viable candidates to be in a apprentice program. With all that being said, it's like there's a national trend of people not working. So why would we expect that it'd be easy to find people for construction trades? And, you know, like I made reference to the Forest Park project, I didn't know, which I do now, that this is not a stick and building construction. It is a metal construction kit type thing where the company who designed it requires that the assemblers have certain trades. So it limits, I know we're looking at the overall numbers, but it really from what I understand, it reduces the total number of people that would be accessible for local company approved trained personnel. So it limits that. Am I off base with that, Jay?
Yeah, you're 100%. Melvin, this is the same thing that they try. Listen, this is the game that's played in the industry. Remember, if you remember at Big Y, they said the same thing. Oh my God, for the manufacturer to, warranty his insulated panels around the cooler system, it has to be done by and everybody there has to have the training. Listen, the union iron worker does it, the sheet metal worker does it, and the union carpenter does the same exact panels. They just try to spin the misconception that, we had to bring in somebody from North Carolina. Listen, there's tons of companies up here in Massachusetts based, New England based, that can do pre-engineered buildings. There's nothing special about that building. If that's the case,
okay, then my question to you, Fiore, then becomes, then why would a company out of North Carolina be able to bring a crew from North Carolina, pay for their transportation, hotel, and all the ancillary costs, and be able to outbid a local company that was viably bidding for that project? Or is it a situation?
Because more than likely, Melvin, they probably didn't even get a chance to bid it. The guy, you're exactly right. How can you pay for, first off, you have to have workers that are paid a prevailing wage. So the trade that would be applicable for the steel frame itself would be an ironworker trade. So that profession is roughly about $70 an hour. You're right. How do they pay? They're going to put 4 guys in a room, but you're right. How did they bring all these guys up here?
Yeah, and in Massachusetts, don't everybody?
How did they do it?
Well, whether you're union or not, you're still paying the same wage. Right?
Some companies are cheating, though. Some companies
are cheating. Exactly.
They put forward a payroll that shows, 5 guys, and they have 10 earning, a bunch earning minimum wage or something.
So when these companies with the prefab buildings, which I believe they're called, you guys know better than I do, but that's what they're called, the prefab buildings.
Pre-engineered.
Pre-engineered, prefabricated, however they say it. Yeah. And when we have these conversations about specialized crews and things of that nature coming on, if that is complete bullshit or a lie or whatever, what have you, how does that work with us in the contractor?
So right now, for instance, we are doing a DPW building up in Turner's Falls. I have a Connecticut-based ironworking company that is doing the work. They hired a bunch of local guys here to put the building up. They not only are, so again, the confusing part would be the next step after the frame goes up, because the non-union can get away when 3 trades all claim the same work. The state says, well, look, if you guys can't figure out whose rate applies, then we're not going to do it for you. So the lesser of the 3 would be probably I'm assuming it might be the sheet metal worker. It could be the carpenter. My only point is the non-union can call themselves, because we all claim siding, they could say that the siding is done. But, the roofing today, there's a licensing that goes along with some of the pre-engineered buildings. I don't know if this particular one called that. So a license, they should have a license to put that roof on. The sheet metal workers put that in there. So it does give them a little advantage to use one of a licensed trade, unless the guys go out and get a license. So again, it's just, there is no such thing as, there's listen, Butler Building, that's the name of a brand. Okay, Butler Buildings. We all heard that name, that they associate with pre-engineered buildings. There's a million contractors that are on their list. The point is they just bring in, they go to the lowest bidder and they work something out to bring the guy from wherever he's going to come from. But you're exactly 100% right. How are they? We got one in Chicken being done on a private job, so you can pay the guy $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, you're right, Melvin. How do they do it? They cheat. And I'm not saying cheating is going on in this job. but that is traditionally how we have been covered. That's why we all have investigators. We've seen way too many cases like this where, again, they're supposed to be paying Massachusetts taxes. So if they're paying guys through the payroll of their hometown, then they're not paying our Massachusetts taxes. So there's a cost savings. If they didn't get workers' comp for our state, there's a cost savings. There's a million different ways to save money on a project.
Okay, I'm not going to beat this dead horse any longer. It's a very legitimate question and probably a strong, longer conversation. I do intend to follow up with my council president and with Lisa on and creating something. And of course, I will, keep the committee abreast of what we're trying to do and welcome the assistance of both Che and all the members on this committee, as well as my council colleague, Alan. And if there's no objection, I'd like to move on to the next agenda item, which is a review of the sample letter. And I believe this was in the wheelhouse of Councilor Tim Allen.
Yeah, so,
Tim, did that get sent out though today?
Say it again, Fiore.
I saw something about it being sent out. The problem is I didn't see it come across I've been pretty much working off the phone today, but I didn't see it come over. So I'm not privy to looking at the letter, but I'm sure it's I'll be more than happy to look it over and give some advice as to what's in it when I get a chance to look at it.
Yeah.
okay, so, so just at the beginning of the meeting or 5 minutes before 1 or something, I had a little, I was just doing the letter in the last hour and I ran into a little technical issue, but I did get it over to several of you. I sent it to Lindsay, to Melvin, to Che, and I think to Maureen. I didn't have your email available to me, Fiore, so I'm happy to send it to you.
No biggie.
And anyone else, didn't mean to miss anybody else, but at that point I was in scramble mode. I just wanted to get it to somebody. So if you'll see the letter, if you see the letter, the attachment says bicycle trail letter, ignore that. I had trouble saving it under another name. So I just saved it under the document that I started with, which is a bicycle trail letter. So the point of the letter is I talked to Che a couple times between last meeting and this meeting, and I don't know I don't have a good handle of the communication that goes on between Che and his group and the different contractors, et cetera. But when I wrote this letter, I thought Big Y was incomplete. Obviously it's been complete, but the idea of the letter is to, and I'm happy to read it to any of you if you want. The idea of the letter is to, from the REO, talk about the purpose of the REO and make people aware of the fact that they're not meeting their numbers. I wrote the letter to also accomplish the fact that the REO covers public construction projects. It also covers private construction projects that of companies that have received a TIF, and basically explains the REO, what it is, etc. And it's kind of it needs to be tweaked depending on the situation, but I don't know that we've ever sent anything out from the REO committee. And the idea was to draft something that could be a start of that. So
I think that's wonderful.
May I suggest that we put this on the next agenda, and that way everybody who didn't get it will have had a chance to get it. It may have been sent to me. I can assure you I have been on the phone.
No, it's too close. It was too close to the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I've been on the phone since.
Let's give our input back to Tim. We'll give our input back to Tim, and we can revise it a little bit, and then have a little clearer letter, and then we can go from there. Cool. Sounds wonderful.
So Maureen, can you make a note? Maureen, could you make a note that item number 2 of section 3 of today's agenda, just put it right off to the next agenda automatically, along with acceptance of the meetings for the next month and discussion policies. So it's already on the agenda. And that way it's not even a question. That works for everybody?
That's fine.
Okay, if there's no objection, I'm going to move on to item number 3, which is a continued review of the workforce report for DeBerry, Homer, and project. So representatives of Fontaine, thank you for your patience, and I hope you've been enjoying the theater. Nice to hear from you both. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having us, and it's good to see y'all. And I was away last month, so good to be able to join the group. So I can explain here. I'll put the numbers in the chat as well, just in case that's helpful. But for folks of color, we have 36%. Women, we are at 5%. For veterans, we're at 6.7%. And for residents, we're at 21.4%. We have been, really pushing folks, with, paying more attention to making sure that the residents and for women, we get some of those numbers up. And Fury, I don't know if this, will help with the question you asked about the folks who have some zeros right now. We have had conversations with almost everybody who is at zero right now. And for one of those folks, they've actually since brought on a woman on their crew. We just before this phone call, we did have yet another meeting to see again if we can turn some of these zeros into some higher percentages. So hopefully that's been helpful. Hopefully that's helpful to answer part of your question. We still do continue to meet with subcontractors as they get ready to come on site, or as they've been on site for a little bit, again, to make sure that we are staying on top of them and hearing from them really what their plans are to achieving the goals, and if they're having challenges in one area or another. From that end, in some of the last conversations that we've had, we've actually had folks share with us some ads that they've put out already, and so we are taking that information and spreading that out to our network. And I'll say a couple of the contractors actually that have brought on folks that we've recommended throughout the year, we've been able to connect them with Community Works in particular. That's a group that we go to quite often, and they've been able to provide a couple of folks who are currently and actively working on the project. So, and on the other community engagement, student engagement side of this, now that school is back up, we're looking forward to be able to host more folks for site tours and maybe have some of those, conversations about opportunities within the industry. So I'll, Frank, Che, I don't know if there's anything that missing and that we have an update.
No, that was a broad overview. That's about where it's at. Yeah, definitely.
Just one quick observation on the list, when you look at the list that's on the agenda, like somebody like King Painting, they don't have any women on site. Che, myself, and Liz met with them this week. That job will be done with probably 3 painters. They have, the foreman is on site now. His plan is to hire, he has 2 minority painters that will be coming on with him. Unfortunately, they're not from Springfield. One lives in Chicopee, one lives in West Springfield. But when you're looking at this list and you don't see women, that's kind of what's happening there. Same with Lazat. Lazat hasn't started yet. He's gotten his materials. He's starting this coming week. So some of those errors are just because folks aren't out there yet.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can look at least 5 of them, and they all have under 100 hours on them right now. So those are the ones that we're going to be working on. We are working on, who just came on site. So yeah, the zeroed out definitely looks a certain way, but if you look a couple columns to the left, you'll see they've barely been on site. So we're working with all of them. Yep. They're getting their numbers up, and we're out there every day. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just trying to point out earlier, if you guys have heard me say this 100 times, I don't even normally look at a contractor that I try to use a starting mark of about 500 hours, because anything under that is a really small crew. It's hard to meet all 4 criteria with 2 or 3 guys or 2 or 3 people on a project. So yeah, I mean, again, I was just generalizing real quick pointing out, but yeah, when you can at least take 5 out of the 10 that I said, because they're just starting. But again, as long as there's enough, but I guess what I'm trying to say is we're at 5.2%. It's not going to take much to get that over the 7%. So 1 or 2 other contractors adding into this is going to push that number right over to, right up above where it's supposed to be. I guess that was the point I should have made earlier. It's not going to take much to bring that up to 7.
Yeah, no, we're pushing everybody as much as we can. And I think what's really helpful is when we're having these conversations, it's not like it's just me on the phone or Frank on the phone. We're having it, together, both, Chiz on, every email and every one of these meetings, to again, just stress the importance of us, of why we're there and the importance of these, the goals. So absolutely, point is taken. Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay, all I have to say is, Frank, I got your email and I appreciate the invite, and I will follow up with you. Thank you. That was very kind of you. And appreciate the update. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to multitask.
I hear you.
We all.
And the next side, before I get into that, I did talk, as I said, I did talk to the contractor for the Forest Park project. We had a very in-depth conversation. We will have a second one. And I appreciate, the thing is he he recognizes his shortcomings. I don't think, he wasn't trying to, it didn't sound like he was trying to make excuses or whatever. He wants to do what needs to be done. He needs some help. And I think in terms of being able to direct people, and he's assured me that if we direct people to him and contractors, and that's the thing is we have to do as well on our end as well on the other side. And if thing is this echoes what we've been saying for a decade. The city of Springfield, if we want this to be successful, the administration, all the counselors, all who are involved, we have to do a better job of putting a structure in place to support this. As I shared with him, if you already know what I'm saying, when we started this, I believe there was one Black female electrician in Springfield. I don't know how many there are now, but if they don't exist, you can't pull the rabbit out of the hat if there ain't no rabbit to put in the hat. So, and me and Che, we've had enough conversations recently where we're talking about, at least in relation to minority contractors. It came up last night, because we've got a new housing initiative to build houses on vacant receiver lots. And, the minorities in the council are already, talking about people not being able to access it. Well, what we need to work on, and that's not the charge of this committee, but I need to work on getting contractors that are minorities and women contractors who are qualified to be, to be those qualified bidders. And then we can shift the conversation to whether they've got proper access. And right now I don't have enough of them that qualified as potential bidders. But enough of that. And I believe the next item that I'd like to discuss is a review of the REO's utilization form for SciTech window door replacement associated work compliance unit.
So you have the July numbers in front of you. I just got the August numbers today. So I didn't have time to get them over to Maureen. I can read the August numbers out to you right now. The veterans are at 7.46%, females at 2.11%, minorities 58.7%, and residents 40.65%. They will have more females coming in as they ramp up from their shop, Nina, and they need to bring in that number right now. They said they're going to be steady for minorities, veterans, and their females will come up, and the residents are doing well right now. So
could you just say those numbers once again, Shay? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, definitely. It's 40.6% residents, 58.7% minorities, 2.11% females, 7.46% vets.
Hey, quick question. So, I mean, are both of these contractors working in conjunction? Or is CS Allison a sub to NENA? I mean, NEA got the contract as a general contractor prime.
Correct. CS Allison is a sub. Their other subs are Cantarella and Sons and Mars Scaffolding.
So there are two other subs on the project too?
For August, yes. So they weren't on the
Okay.
project for July. They're on the project for August in September, correct. So CS Allison was the only sub on the project for July. Mars Scaffolding and Cantarella and Sons came on for August. Yes.
And Cantarella, what was the other one?
Mars Scaffolding and Company.
All right, so, I mean, just to clarify, guys, I didn't get a chance to research anybody, but I believe, Nina, you have zeros for residents. I'm glad to see the number went way up. I put down exempt with a question mark because I don't know who C.A. Allison is, and I thought Nina was based out of Rhode Island.
They are.
So they
Allison's based out of
anyway.
Boston. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. So they're Boston based?
CS Allison is Boston based, correct.
Okay.
Numbers sound good? Numbers sound good with a promise of or expectation that women will increase as the project moves along?
If I could just ask one question, please.
Please, that was what I was asking.
Definitely.
Shay,
Tim?
did I not hear you right, or did you say, it seems like your numbers added up to more than 100%. What was the big number? Was it 58% or something else?
Would you like me to read them again?
Well, it was 40% was the first one, and then it's the second one that I didn't get.
The minorities is 58.7%.
So all those numbers added up make more than 100%. So is it because some people,
They're in different
it's
categories.
not total manpower.
So that's-
They're different
people-
categories.
excuse me, some people count in two categories? Is that what that means?
There are 4 categories.
Right. But they add up to more than 100% if I'm hearing you right.
You are hearing me right, but they're different categories.
It's 58% of the women, for example, residents is 58% of the workforce for in that particular area is so the other
It's not an aggregate.
the other 42% are non-residents. Is that what you're trying to say, Che?
Correct. So the 58% is just for minorities. And
Correct.
the 40% is just for residents.
It's not an aggregate, Tim. That's you're trying to add it up as a total of 100%. Right. Each category stands alone.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
So the
So I
42%.
guess if I had a follow-up question, if we had a minority female, would that person count in two categories?
Correct. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I'm all set. I get it now. Somebody can double count. That's fine.
Before we get off, I mean, it's technically not on there, so this isn't really a discussion per se because it's not on the agenda item, but we did bring up Forest Park. Do we have any idea when we're going to see any numbers or any documents for that project? I would say we're probably, 70% done over there, if I were to guess?
No, probably in the 50s. It's still in the 50s. And yes, for the next meeting, they will have all their information put together. I've been working with them a lot. Again, as Councilor Edwards has intimated, this is their first REO project, not giving them a pass or anything at all, but they've just been completely unorganized with their paperwork. So even when they do send in the utilization form, it's not correct. So they've been getting in their paperwork correctly now. And by the next meeting, they should have everything buttoned up. And so you will see utilization reports in the next meeting from Aurora.
Can we
they-
see
and they-
those as soon as they come in?
Sure,
And
whenever they come in, I'll send them out to the committee first thing.
And they are available at the request of Che to attend the next meeting. It's just the timing of getting them on the agenda for today was too tight.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
next month, if Che asks them to come, they will make themselves available with just enough notice so that they can put it in the schedule.
Wonderful.
And they've been ramping up as far as residents and females as well, but right now countrywide it's tough, not just in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Okay. Any other questions on the agenda items before I open it up to speak out, which I assume would be Lindsay, not Lindsay, Lisa, or Frank, anyone else having?
Bye.
Maureen, you want to jump in here, Maureen?
No.
I'm good. Thank you, Chairman.
Well, Lisa, I will follow. I've already talked to Jesse 4 times today, and I'll be talking to him at least once more, probably a couple more, but I will share my personal desire to ramp up what we, have a kind of suggested might need to happen and on our part. And if there's no objection to anybody, I appreciate all of your time and patience with me. And thank you for attending. If there's no objection, motion to adjourn has been made. And so thank you, everyone.
Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. And thank you, Focus Springfield.